Hey everybody, and welcome to this week's Design Cinema. I'm Fane Zhu, and again this week we're going to record this on video to show you guys some of the interesting things I have in my office and how they inspire myself. So this is goes out again to the students out there or those who are thinking about becoming a concept designer or artist in this business, and I'm going to talk about the kind of inspirations and objects that inspire me to do what I do every day. And for example, I have like coffee in front of me. These are things I'm going to just discuss real quick, and I think it's something that's very interesting for you guys to know as well. So all right, let's get started. Okay, so let's talk a little bit about the industry that that we work in as professionals. You can see again we have the coffee here. Our industry, if you chose to be in it, is actually just like any other professional job, a very, very hard working industry where you require a lot of man hours to get good at what you do. Just like playing tennis or professional sports or for doing computer programming, whatever it is, you have to spend a lot of hours doing it. And that's why we have our coffee in front of us. In the last 13, 14 years, I've been doing this every single day. I drink coffee because we work very long hours. Even when you get to a point where you're very, very fast at doing this kind of work, it still requires a lot of mental stress, meaning that you have to come up with designs, think about what the client wants, and all those things will eat up into your time. So it's definitely not a casual job by any means. It's not a 9-to-5 job. It is a pretty much a 24/7 around-the-clock thinking and producing, and every single day you're going out and doing this kind of stuff, and there's a lot of pressure in terms of deadlines. And so anyways, as a student, you don't have to worry about that as much, but be aware of what our industry actually is. It looks very fun from the outside, obviously, because you get to watch cool films, you get to work on video games, and get lots of freebies and all these kind of really fun things. But at the end of the day, it is still a job, and any job, to be good at it, you have to take it very, very professionally. So okay, let's just get started with some of the stuff in front of me. Let's talk about the fun stuff. All right. Okay, so here are some books in front of me, as you can see. Now, I do want to explain the difference between these books and the ones I use as reference are very, very different. Reference, I'll talk about a different video, how to gather reference, where to look for them, what kind of books to gather. Those things, maybe we'll do it next week. This week, however, this is the kind of stuff that inspires me, right? Inspiration and reference are very two different subject matters to me. And what I have here are the designers that inspire me. Maybe you guys have your own designers out there that you guys look up to and try to emulate and try to follow their career path. For me, these are the guys who got me into this industry in the first place. So I got in this business, or at least became very interested in it at a very young age. I think back in the early 90s. And this guy here, his name is Syd Mead, is pretty much the guy that did it all for us in the entire industrial design business. So obviously, his books are great to have. One, to study the technical aspect of his abilities, and two, to look at his design abilities. Again, that's Syd Mead, who's been around for many, many years, is still designing today for several projects. What makes him so special is that he's been doing this since the 60s and 70s. Designs are seen today, games like Mass Effect, and these have a lot of influence from designers such as Syd Mead when you play those kind of games. These books I treasure them. They're sometimes very hard to get. However, for designers, these things are really cool to have in a design studio, because if you have clients coming in and they see, oh, you got a Syd book on your desk, there's a level of belief or level of respect they'll automatically have for you, because they'll be, oh, this person is exposed to design. They know who their inspirations are. So again, but they're kind of hard to find. These I got from Syd himself, which is pretty lucky. Went over to his house and picked these up. So this is Chronovecta and Chronovecca, which are very, very cool books. They come in a set like this. Okay, so my books here are actually signed by Syd, which I'm very happy to have. You can see here some signed things. Okay, and what's inside these? This book here is all paintings by Syd, which is beautiful, done in gouache. And the way we work in Photoshop is very, very similar to the way gouache is applied. So the way the demos I've been doing on YouTube in Photoshop, actually the method I use is from this medium right here, is gouache. And of course you can see there's like Blade Runner and Aliens and Star Trek and all these really classic sci-fi films that defined our business today. And it's all found in this book here. This is probably one of my favorite books. This is Sentinel 2, which is also one of Syd's books. And down here is a bunch of Syd's sketches, which is all his sketchbook stuff. Also, because for designers, I think sometimes, see, it's very, very loose. I like the sketchbook because for professionals, sometimes you guys are not seeing what they do on the little sketchbooks, their thinking drawings. What you see is actually their finished results, the beautiful renderings, the beautiful paintings. And for students, that can become frustrating because you're like, I want to go from step 0 to step or 100 because that's the kind of stuff you're seeing. But don't forget, a professional has a lot of steps in between, and they're all here. They're in things like this. Super loose. The perspective is not the perfect thing, but it's all about the ideas, right? You can see some of the stuff here is very, very loose. And it's very good to see how other designers think, how they put stuff on paper, because that'll help you get inspired to think, and don't worry about how tight or how precise something is, but worry about the design. Okay, so let me go on to some other ones here. Another person that inspired me a lot is Frank Frazetta, who recently passed last year. This guy is sort of like the Syd Mead of the illustration side. Syd Mead is, again, for the industrial design. Frank Frazetta obviously is a great illustrator and great designer who also iconicized many of the great movies and video games out there as well. Big inspiration for a lot of us in the industry. So if you're very young, you might not know these names yet, but I highly recommend you go out and research who they are. Again, Frank Frazetta, Syd Mead, because these guys are, for us who are in the business, who are often hiring, especially you guys who are younger, we're in the art director positions, we want people to know who they are because this is what makes our industry. Some other interesting stuff I have here are like Win Barlow, who is really cool, alien designer, creature designer. He also worked on films such as Avatar, so doing really cool stuff. Some Prince of Egypt art books. I love every sort of thing. I'm kind of just showing you guys probably about 1% of my total book collection. This is very, very tiny. I enjoy everything out there, from feature animations to the hardcore sci-fi films. It doesn't really matter. A few other things I have here I'll show you guys. A book called Mass. This book also inspires a ton of video games out there. Also very hard to find. It's by John Harris. So here's a cover. If you check on Amazon, maybe you could perhaps find this copy. Basically, it just shows a lot of paintings of objects that look huge. That's why it's called Mass. Also, if you play a lot of video games or see those kind of things, you find a lot of the influence come from this guy's work. Such as Halo and these kind of projects. The Art of Fifth Element. This book I love a lot because the designs are kind of crazy. French design out of Luc Besson's office. So you see all the characters and those kind of things, spaceships. I got this book when I was still in design school and had a huge influence in the way I saw entertainment design, because prior to that, art of books was quite rare. If you think back to the early 94, 95, that's when I was in school. Art of books is something that's very hard to get, especially from films. And this is one of the first ones that comes out. I think back then there was like Armageddon and some other Godzilla or something like those kind of films. But they didn't put too much art in them, right? And Star Wars, obviously, there was that one. But besides that, very rare. So when this book came out, you see all this cool concept art in there, and everything's written in French. It just gives you a cool take on the entertainment industry. And this film also is very, very cool. And I have a ton of these kind of books. These are Manga Art Books. I'm sure a lot of you guys have that as well. This is by Frazetta, which you guys might know who he is. This is one of his collector books. You can see it's very, very big book here. Now, manga is something I don't find particular thing for finding reference from, because I think it's been done way too many times in our business, and also something that sort of is overused in terms of design. However, it is very, very cool. The technology they use, the tech, the sci-fi, the worlds they create are very cool. So definitely something I look at. However, something I do try to avoid when I'm looking for inspiration. Actually, all these books I tend to avoid when I'm actually designing in front of a desk. Now, what you see next week is all my reference books, the books I use when I'm thinking about ideas, right? Because what you want to avoid is taking these guys' stuff and then put it into your work. That's not good. You definitely want to get inspired from them, see what kind of achievements they have made in their careers, and try to follow the similar path. Okay, so this is just a little snippet of the kind of art of books I have, and hopefully you guys go out there and make your own collection. This is something that's very, very helpful. And again, if you put it in your studio, you're dealing with clients, or you have other designer friends come over, you get a lot of respect, because everybody checks out what kind of books you have in your bookshelves, right? They want to see your background and your inspirations. Okay, so that's a little bit about books. Let's move on to our next thing. Let's talk about some toys. All right, let's talk about these airplanes that I have in front of me. So if you have a girlfriend or a wife, they'll think that you're a total geek for having these things in your office. But for us, it's inspiration. It is research at the same time as something that's very, very cool to have in your office. Now, I do have a lot of toys, but I have way more realistic stuff in my office than toys. Back when I was younger, probably like many of you guys, you probably have all the figures from toys, from video games. I had that as well. But as I got older and I started looking around my office, I wanted to surround myself with things that inspire me from a real functional point of view. And that's where these airplanes come into play here. I have a ton of these things. You can see here, this is an ME262. one of the first German jet fighters here. Now, what makes these things so cool? Why do we have these real things? Let me take the cockpit off for a second. It's because these are not just only toys, but these are built completely to scale, completely to what the real world is. And when you can hold these things in your hand, you could then study exactly what makes these things function. How does a wheel well works? How does the engines get attached to the wings? These are things that industrial designers look for when we're designing. We're creating something new, we're creating something that doesn't exist. However, we have to know how something functions in the first place. So if we're designing a flying plane of some kind, maybe it's a retro airplane for Red Baron, some kind of sci-fi version of that. You still need to know, okay, what do the ailerons do? What do flaps do? How do they function on the real deal? And airplane, just like sports cars or anything that's very, very high tech, is almost like a globular joint of all technology in one, especially airplanes, because they're so high technology and possess a lot of futuristic things on them that just with one design, you can find a lot of interesting features. And that's why I like having these things around me. So, here's another one here. This is the F-104 Starfighter. What you can see is a huge scale plane here. And one is really cool. You can study them in detail. Two, just hanging these in your office is really, really fun. So, again, this is just a few of the planes I have here. I have a ton of these things at home as well. These are pre-built, so you don't have to make them. You can, of course, buy the ones where you glue together. This is the SPD Dantis, which you can see the wings fold up for carrier. So this is the kind of stuff we show our students as well. This guy is humongous. These guys are quite heavy as well. Now they're not cheap. They're not something you could buy for like $20, right? They're in the hundreds of dollars range. However, if you take good care of these guys, they'll serve as be with you forever. And also a good story to get your clients talking. Sometimes you have strangers in your office, and they go, "Hey, what is this? Where'd you get this?" And it starts a conversation going, and it's very, very cool to just have around. So, whatever you guys find interesting, tanks, airplanes, things like that, or something that's real, I recommend you buy, because to hold these things in your hand and to really study them is a big difference in, for example, looking at a photo of an ME-262. You're never going to get this kind of stuff. We're looking at it from certain angles. And this is very different than looking at a toy. Right? A toy, for example, a figurine or something like that. That stuff is a design from somebody's imagination in 3D, and it's cool to have. But this is more for research. This is designed for you to study. So yeah, that's a little bit about the planes I have here. And all right, let's go on to the next one. Okay, so after all those books and airplane kind of stuff, what is it all equal to, right? And what that means is that you have to put all that stuff in practice, which is you have to draw a lot. In this business, unfortunately, it takes a lot of movement of your wrist and your brain, your eyeballs, to achieve success or become a professional. Because I know a lot of you guys are drawing at home and we're learning on your own right now. But to do that, you really need to draw a lot and design a lot on every single day, every single week. Because you see in front of me here, these are just live demos I've done in class for our students. This does not count even my personal work as well as all the stuff I do for clients on the side. Just in demos alone, all this stuff is beginning this year. I already have a few hundred images just from that. So that gives you mileage, you see, because you can always say, okay, why do so many drawings? What if I just do one drawing really, really well? But in our business, it's all about the mileage. The more you do something, the better you will get at it. Just, like playing sports. So think about it this way, especially if you're a student. If you compare two people, one that's in school or one that's just drawing a lot versus one that's drawing casually, think about the time. For a student, a typical design student in school probably do somewhere around 5 to 6 pages of this size drawings per week per class. So they usually have about maybe 3 to 4 design classes. So in a week they're producing somewhere between 20 or something, or a little bit more drawings. So within a year's time or two that they're in school, they have produced hundreds and hundreds of these kind of images. Now, if you're doing this at home and you're drawing one drawing a day or even one a week or painting, you think about that, someone is actually doing something that's 10, 20 times faster or more than you. So even for a student, after years, if they get out and they get a job, they're still a junior designer. But up to that point, they have accumulated a couple hundred drawings in their portfolio. Versus if you're not doing that kind of level, even if you do the time, that might take you 10 years to catch up what they've done in 1 year. And at that 10 years, you're still a junior designer. Versus in 10 years of that person, they're probably already a professional working in the business. So the conclusion to that is, if you're not in the school, then draw a lot. If you are, then the school will force you to do it. So either way, it's about the mileage. There's no way to escape it. There are no shortcuts in this business. There are no tricks any school could teach you or I could teach you on YouTube. There's nothing to skip that time, which is I think is about 10,000 hours or so above just constant drawing. That equals to roughly about 5 years or so of working really, really hard. 2-3 years in school, another two years in the business to really get used to the working pipeline, and then you're on your way to a professional. It's very hard to enter the business any other way. At least myself, I've not seen anyone who become a super crazy professional by not working hard. We're not drawing a lot every single day. So use this stuff, the books and the airplanes, as inspiration. Clear your room out, get all that kind of stuff around you, and just buy a stack of paper, buy the cheap ones that you got, or the stuff I talked about last week, and start drawing. Right? It doesn't even have to be digital. Just draw something and try to give yourself a goal. Right? Maybe 10 drawings a day or 5 drawings a day. And in the week you have, say, 50, and just keep that going. I guarantee you, within a year you will get better. It's always like that. Right? There's no secret. The only secret I can tell you, or the trick, is the more you do it, the better you get. That's all. So even if you don't have any kind of lesson or formal training, the more you draw, the better you get. And you add that together with design skills or things you pick up here and there on YouTube or Noman DVDs and these kind of places, you will start to get professional. So anyways, hopefully that helps you guys for this week. So next week we're going to talk about reference material. Again, how to gather them, what kind of books I have, and hopefully that'll get a complete set of instructions for those of you who are starting out. So until then, hope you guys enjoyed this episode, and I'll see you guys next week. Bye-bye.